So the Browns lost a crucial member of their coaching staff, Bill Callahan, yesterday, as Mary Kay Cabot was the first to report that Bill Callahan will be joining his son, Brian Callahan, down in Nashville, where he got the Titans head coaching gig. So unfortunately, we kind of saw this one coming when the Titans hired Brian Callahan. I thought we might be out of the woods when the news was not announced, like within 72 hours or so of the hire, but unfortunately, the Browns have lost, in my opinion, the best offensive line coach in football. So now we have to run through 5 replacement options for the Browns. But let me just start off by saying this is a big loss for the Browns. Bill Callahan, in my opinion, is the best offensive line coach in football, like I said. And this Browns offensive line unit has probably been the most consistent thing since Kevin Stefanski took over as the head coach. Like, that and Nick Chubb at running back and Myles Garrett coming off the edge, like those were 3 things you could count on, and even the Browns lost Nick Chubb. So now we're down to Myles Garrett in the offensive line, and hopefully the offensive line does not go downhill next. But let's give some background on Bill Callahan because he was the Browns O-line coach from 2020 to 2023. He had some head coaching experience. He was the Las Vegas Raiders head coach. He was Nebraska's head coach. He was an interim head coach in Washington when Jay Gruden got fired. He is well respected and well liked across the league, and it's a fantastic hire for the Tennessee Titans. So bravo to Tennessee. They've had a lot of offensive line issues over the last couple of years, and they're getting a great one because with Bill Callahan as the offensive line coach, you've got guys like Wyatt Teller, who were 3-time Pro Bowl nominees. I mean, Wyatt Teller, before he got to Cleveland, wasn't some household offensive lineman, right? But now 3 straight trips to the Pro Bowl. How about Joel Bitonio? Joel Bitonio was already a great offensive lineman, but when Bill Callahan got to Cleveland, he took a Pro Bowl offensive lineman and made him an All-Pro offensive lineman. And then in between those 2 guards, you've got Ethan Posick, stowaway from Seattle that was brought over to Cleveland to be Nick Harris's backup. And then Nick Harris goes down in the Jags preseason game, and Ethan Posick completely turns his career around. His PFF overall grade with Bill Callahan averages out to 74.8. Before he had Bill Callahan as his offensive line coach, it was 53.3. So you can clearly see a huge bump that Bill Callahan brings to all of his offensive linemen. And that doesn't even include having Jack Conklin be an all-pro right tackle, or Jed Wills doing his best, we'll say it, to mesh in well at left tackle after making the switch from right tackle where he was at Alabama. So let's show Bill some love on his way out because I'm not going to be salty towards him or anything like that. He's going to coach with his son. It's the first time we've ever had a head coach, son, father duo. We've had father-son duos. We've never had son-father. So best of luck to Bill Callahan down in Nashville. Let's get 800 likes on today's video. That's for all the Pro Bowls and all-pro offensive linemen he sent on their way. Let's break the month record with 800 likes to salute Bill Callahan for all the great things he did for the Browns over the last 4 seasons. But now we got to run through some replacement options. And let's start with Scott Peters, the most logical in-house promotion. So Scott Peters, since 2020, has been the Browns' assistant offensive line coach. So if there is anyone that has hopefully learned something or two from Bill Callahan, it would be Scott Peters. Now, he played 7 seasons in the NFL. He never really caught on, though, in the league as a player, but he's had some success as a coach on this Browns coaching staff. I would think this is the direction the Browns go, but maybe Cleveland waits for, say, the Super Bowl to end, and that gives the Browns a better picture of the entire landscape of all their available options, because who knows? There is a human element to this, right? You can't just make hires based off YouTube videos because I wrote down he's been the assistant offensive line coach since 2020. Kevin Stefanski knows his coaching staff better than anyone, so if he feels he's ready to take over that unit completely, I'm sure he'll get the job. If he feels that he is not ready to take over that unit, Kevin Stefanski is probably going to look outside. So with that being said, let's move on to our second replacement option, which is Andy Dickerson, the Seattle Seahawks offensive line coach. This name might sound familiar to you, and that's because the Browns actually interviewed Andy Dickerson to be their offensive coordinator. And when they interviewed Andy Dickerson, I remember in that video telling you all this sounds a little odd. You don't really see offensive line coaches become offensive coordinators. I wonder if this is bracing themselves for the possibility of losing Bill Callahan, so they want to get an interview with Andy Dickerson. I think that is why they ultimately brought him into Cleveland. And with a new head coach in Seattle with Mike Macdonald, he might want to bring his own coaching staff. Dickerson could be allowed to interview elsewhere, and this could be a head start for Kevin Stefanski in their search and conquest to replace the almighty Bill Callahan. Now, we're going to run through some more replacement options, including a fan favorite in just a moment. But really quickly, I do want to shout out our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks, I actually got my girlfriend to sit down and watch some playoff football with me because it was very simple. We sat down and make some selections on player stats for more or less. And if you are in the same boat where sometimes your significant other isn't all that interested in watching football, well, here's my life hack for you. Give them Prize Picks, almost like giving a child an iPad, and for the next 3.5 hours, they're going to be locked in on the game. So, download Prize Picks today, and then choose more or less on player stat projections. Here are my selections for the Super Bowl. I like the more on Patrick Mahomes at half a passing yard. Feels pretty attainable in my eyes. I also like the more on Isaiah Pacheco at half a rushing and receiving touchdown. I feel like the running backs in Super Bowls always kind of get forgotten about because all eyes are on the quarterbacks, but they score too. And then I like the more on Brock Purdy's passing yards at 248.5. So if you like my selections, feel free to ride with me at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Moving on to our third Bill Callahan replacement, we're going to go with the Chiefs' assistant offensive line coach, Corey Matthaei. Remember a moment ago when I said Kevin Stefanski might wait till the Super Bowl ends before he makes a hire? Maybe it's because he's waiting for, say, the Chiefs coaching staff to become a little bit more available, or the San Francisco 49ers coaching staff, because both those teams have incredible offensive line. Now, let's talk about Corey Matthaei. He's been on the Chiefs coaching staff for 11 years and 6 seasons as the assistant offensive line coach. And as long as he's been the assistant offensive line coach, 4 different offensive linemen have been voted to the Pro Bowl. So he's definitely got a bit of a knack for getting the best out of his offensive linemen. Now, of course, he's the assistant coach, so it can't give him all the credit. It's also worth mentioning the head coach is Andy Reid, and what's his specialty? Offensive line. That is where he makes his money, and that is where so much of the Chiefs' success, I think, has been forgotten about. Like, everyone wants to talk about Patrick Mahomes, and of course, that makes sense. But don't sleep on the Chiefs' offensive line for being a major reason why they are where they are right now. I remember last year they played the Philadelphia Eagles, a defense that had, I think, a NFL record team high, like 85, 86 sacks in a season, and they didn't touch Patrick Mahomes once in that game. So that Chiefs offensive line has been one of the best units for the last decade or so. PFF ranks them as some top 10 players in Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith. That Trey Smith guy, he's really good. Wherever he went to college, I'm sure they taught him well. So if you're looking to learn from the best, maybe Corey Matthaei comes over from Kansas City. He has an opportunity to become the the Browns offensive line coach, and he can take some of what he learned from Kansas City and Andy Reid and apply it to Cleveland. Now, before we get on to the other 2 replacement options, and I'm saving the best for last, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 33,300 subscribers by Monday. That'd be an awesome thing to wake up to wrap up the weekend. And we are less than 30 subs away. So if you are one of 29 people watching who are not subscribed, consider doing so. It's completely free. So if you ever don't like the content, you're more than welcome to dip on out of here. But it's a great way to get yourself the latest Browns news and rumors. Moving on to our 4th replacement option for Bill Callahan, I'm going to go with Dwayne Ledford. This is the offensive line coach for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, why would the Atlanta Falcons offensive line coach make a lateral move? His dad isn't the Browns head coach. Well, Atlanta just hired a new head coach, and Raheem Morris comes to town, and he may want to shake up the staff a little bit, right? He might want to bring his own posse, as all head coaches tend to do. And if that's the case, maybe the Browns could swoop in and take one of the better and ascending offensive line coaches in football. He has been the O-line coach in Atlanta since 2021. Last year, he got a bit of a title promotion as he also had the run game coordinator added to his resume. Atlanta, by the way, since 2021 is 11th in rushing. I know 11th might not make you jump out of your seat, but let me tell you who the Falcons running backs have been since 2021. Mike Davis, Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier, and rookie Bijan Robinson. Bijan's a fantastic talent. The other three guys, talk about maximizing some like end-of-the-career players like Cordero Patterson, unknown guys like Tyler Algier. So the Falcons' offensive line, while Atlanta's offense has not been very special the last couple of years, I can tell you this much. It's not because of the O-line. They have been one of the consistent best units in football. Drew Dahlman was a nobody. He's a top 5 center in football. Chris Lindstrom, we can argue about whether him or Joel Petonio or Quentin Nelson or Zach Martin should be the best guard in football. They're all great, and one of them belongs in Atlanta, and that's why we're talking about Dwayne Ledford, because he has been instrumental in that development. Caleb McGarry, Jake Matthews, 2 of the better tackles in football. The Falcons have a really good offensive line, and if Raheem Morris wants to bring his own offensive line coach in, I sure hope that Kevin Stefanski would look into talking about bringing on Dwayne Leadford to Cleveland. And finally, probably the reason why you clicked on today's video, Joe Thomas. Could we have Joe Thomas come back to Cleveland on the sideline, but not in pads, not with the helmet, but with the headset on, as the Browns offensive line coach? His resume speaks for itself. I don't have to sell anyone on Joe Thomas. 6-time first-team All-Pro player, 10-time Pro Bowler. And what's interesting is, you might think, does Joe Thomas even want to be a coach? Maybe he's enjoying retirement. Well, I remember back when he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a tiny little announcement was made that he was joining the Ravens coaching staff. And I remember my heart sinking the moment I heard that. But then I remembered, not the Baltimore Ravens, it was the Munich Ravens. He is moving his entire family over to Germany to join the Munich Ravens of the EFL. I'm just going to call it the ELF League. I don't really know what that is. Sounds like European football. Okay, I figured it out. European Football League. You really want to be in the EFL, Joe? No, you don't. You want to be in the NFL. You want to be with the Cleveland Browns. So you know what? Our operation now is to keep Joe Thomas stateside. Don't move to Germany. Stay in Northeast Ohio and become the Browns offensive line coach. Joe Thomas clearly has an interest for coaching football, as he's willing to move to Munich, Germany to do it. Now, when he made that decision last August or whenever, he didn't know that Bill Callahan would be going down to Tennessee to become the Titans offensive line coach. So now there's an opening in Cleveland, and the stars are aligning. There could not have been a better time for this to happen. Joe Thomas, stay in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, get it done. Bring him home, and let's make Joe Thomas the next offensive line coach. I'm in. I'm all the way in. There were some other great candidates we looked at earlier, and if Joe Thomas and the Browns ultimately can't get it done, we can live with one of the other candidates. But if I'm picking one of those 5 guys, I'm picking Joe Thomas, and I'm picking him twice on Sunday. So let me know. Do you want Joe Thomas as the Browns' next offensive line coach? Give me a yes or give me a no. No, if you type no, fuck you. Type yes a million times in the comment section. Okay. Let's pick a card. I'm ready to run through a wall. I'm ready to watch Joe Thomas run through a wall. He would be a lot better at it than I would.
I think so.
Remember that Eastern Michigan player intro with the sledgehammer? Joe Thomas would have knocked it over with a toothpick.
I think so.
Okay. We've got producer Tyler Smith.
Yes, sir.
First time this offseason.
Yeah, multi-time winner last offseason.
Multi-time. You
Yes,
sure about the multi?
Two-time.
I don't think that's true. We'll have to look at the record books. What do you want to go with?
I'm going to go 7 of clubs today.
Smitty's my desk mate. We did desks not too long ago, and he's been drooling at the opportunity to pick this year.
I'm excited.
You said
new offseason.
7 of what?
7 of clubs.
7 of clubs? I'm going to go with, there's no 73 in here. So I'll go with 7 hearts.
Okay.
Because Joe Thomas is in my heart right now.
All right. We love Joe Thomas here at the Browns Report.
Ready? 4 diamonds.
Not even close.
4 diamonds. Okay.
Terrible start to the offseason.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to sign off. Let you guys enjoy the start to your weekend. And go Brownies and Joe Thomas. Be the next offensive line coach, please.